Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
And what is up, you guys? All I have to say is thank God for Brett Baty. Thank you, sweet Lord baby Jesus, Mama and Papa Baty, for having little Brett, because my goodness, the Mets were staring down the barrel of their fourth consecutive loss. Another one, it could have been a carbon copy of what we've been watching this entire week. Not hitting with runners in scoring position, leading guys on second or third despite leadoff doubles besides second and third and nobody out. And Brett Baty stepped up, delivering 3 RBIs tonight. He opened the scoring, then later gave the Mets the lead back later in the 7th with a 2-run single to left field. And the Mets add a few more as they finally come through in some big spots, snap that 3-game losing streak, and beat the Red Sox, salvaging the series with a victory 5-1 in Boston. What's up, guys? I'm Tony Metro. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and leave this video a like. It doesn't cost you anything. It really helps a long way toward the channel. And I do daily Mets content, so you don't want to miss any of that. We do post-game streams and everything in between. You can find it all here on my YouTube. You could also find me on my different platforms: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Links to those are all in the description below, so you can check all that out after the stream. But first, we got to talk about this Mets win. And like I said, wow, this was looking a lot like the games that we have been watching for the past week, where the Mets blow ample opportunities. They don't hit with runners in scoring position. You just almost feel like they're not going to come through in the big spots. And that was the case in these early innings. So let's go back. Immediately in the first inning, Francisco Lindor leads things off with a double. Starling Marte would immediately pop out. Juan Soto takes 3 pitches down the middle, does not get his bat off his shoulders, and takes a backwards K looking. And then Pete Alonso with 2 outs, last man left to try and get in that run, does exactly what Soto does. He follows suit with a looking strike 3 as well. I mean, at that point, I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. It's going to be another one of these long days where the Mets are going to frustrate the hell out of me. They'd get another opportunity then in the second inning. Immediately, runners at second and third, Luis Torrens and Tyrone Taylor getting on base. And then it was, oh, I'm sorry, I'm watching this Knicks game. Oh, it's not a foul. Come on, ref. Oh, that's brutal. Anyway, go New York, go New York, go. First game of the Eastern Conference Finals going on right now. If you're a Knicks fan, drop a like in the stream right now. 87-83 Knicks, so hopefully they're going to be able to hold on to this one. But the second inning, they begin this one, second and third, with nobody out. And immediately, the Mets look like they're going to squander that opportunity. I got to figure out real quick who exactly it was in that inning, because I believe, I know it was Luis Angel Acuna that grounded out, but right before him, no, it was Tyrone Taylor who popped out. So Vientos walked, Luis Torrens hit a double, and then it was second and third, nobody out. Mets are set up. Luis Angel Acuna grounds out to Bregman on the first pitch he sees. Very next pitch, Tyrone Taylor pops out. And then with 2 outs, you're thinking there's no way the Mets are going to score. This is going to be exactly what we've been seeing all the last week, where they just can't come through in the big spots with runners in scoring position. By that point, they were immediately out of the gate 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position in the first 2 innings. And luckily, Brett Baty strokes a single in right center field. Unfortunately, as it's been going, it ends up, what are you shooting? Campaign is not supposed to be shooting that kind of shot, man. Come on, what is he doing out there? Brett Baty, of course, gets the single, and then Luis Torrens gets thrown out at home plate. I mean, it's like you can't make it up. Like, this is a sick joke. The Mets finally get a hit with runners in scoring position, and the second runner trying to score gets thrown out at home plate to end the inning. I'm just like, at that point, losing my mind. Like, you can't make this up. It is a sick joke that God is playing on Mets fans, I'm thinking at that point. Tyler McGill, by the way, was on the bump and, I mean, was excellent in the early going. I mean, pinpoint control, striking out Red Sox left and right. He keeps the Mets in this game. He only lasts 4 2/3 innings in this one. We'll get a little more deeper into him, but first let's continue on through this one. In the 5th inning is where he actually had his trouble and was eventually removed. It was a sac fly that did deliver the tying run. Huascar Brazoban had came in to clean up the mess and did a solid job. He ends up getting it out and that one, and then getting a strikeout. So impressive job from Brazoban there. And then in the 7th inning, the Mets just get things set up again. Bases loaded, nobody out. All started by a leadoff single from Luis Torrens, who, hey, nice to see him in the lineup. I mean, this guy's been one of the better hitters on this team, not only on a regular basis, but when it comes to with runners in scoring position. So, as I've been saying all week, if you've been here on my streams, I would not mind finding a way to put Vientos in more, or rather, Francisco Alvarez in at the DH spot a little more often and give Torrens some starts behind the plate, or vice versa, however you want to do it. But Luis Torrens has been so great. He starts that inning with a single. Tyrone Taylor pops a single to right, and then Luis Angel Acuna beats out an infield single, actually his second infield single of the game, and the Mets immediately have the bases loaded with nobody out in the 7th. Brett Baty comes up, starts the count 2-0. It gets to 2-2, and then just strokes a ball to left field, down the line and away enough from Jared Duran. Brings home 2 on the plate. It only goes down as a single, obviously, with the short left field and the green monster out there. They were criticizing Acuna on that play for not getting to third. You can make the case for that, but honestly, like, why risk overrunning the player in front of you, especially Tyrone Taylor and Luis Torrens ahead of him? So I didn't have any issue with that. But it gives the Mets the 3-1 lead. So thank goodness for Brett Baty. He has 2 of their hits with runners in scoring position tonight. The Mets as a team overall still only went 3 for 12. So obviously not good, but pretty crazy considering that they were hitting 216 on the year with runners in scoring position. They actually bumped that number up tonight by going 3 for 12, 250 on the night. So good job by Brett Baty out of that one. And then Juan Soto hits this ball 379 feet out to left center field. Obviously not deep enough to get out of the park and up to over that big fence out there in center, but it does bring home Luis Angel Acuna, sac fly, give the Mets a little insurance. And then it was Francisco Lindor in the 9th inning, hitting a home run, his 10th of the year over the green monster. A nice, breezy 1, 2, 3, 4 9th inning for Edwin Diaz. He walks the leadoff batter, but then from there was fine. So all in all, you put it in the books. The Mets get the win. They snap their 3-game losing streak. They're back to 10 games over 500. The sky is not completely falling. There's still a lot of warts that we saw on this game that we've seen throughout the week. The hitters with runner in scoring position, still a huge issue. Like I just said, just still 3 for 12 in this one. You credit Brett Baty for having a good night. You never would have expected him to be getting the start against a lefty in Garrett Crochet. Not just a lefty, one of the best in all of Major League Baseball. He actually gets his first hit against the southpaw on the season with that RBI single back in the 2nd inning. So congrats to Brett Baty. He has been much, much better since he got the call back up to the majors. Definitely has not been perfect. He's not doing that, weak hot streak where he was hitting homers every other at bat, it seemed, but still putting up much more quality at bats since he got recalled to the majors. So happy to see that from Brett Baty. And then to come out and then get another RBI hit, 2-run single into left field from him. He's obviously the MVP of the game. That's why he's on the thumbnail here. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. So really, really glad to see Brett Baty come through for them tonight. But we got to talk about Juan Soto. Yes, he ends up getting the sac fly with the bases loaded there in the 7th inning. But his first 3 at-bats were just some of the most miserable looking at-bats I've seen in my life. I mean, it was horrible. First at-bat, he takes 3 strikes right down the middle, doesn't even get his bat off his shoulders in that one. And you're thinking, like, did he know he was in the batter's box? Was he prepared to go up there and try to drive Lindor in? Runner at second, 1 out. And I just don't know what it is that he's not seeing right now, but almost does the exact same thing in his next at-bat. Takes 3 strikes, strike 3 looking, and you're just like, what is going on with Juan Soto? And then follows it up with his 3rd at-bat, again, taking a ton of pitches in this entire game, gets to 2 strikes, and then chases a slider in the right-handed batter's box. And at that point, the game was still tied 1-1, and I'm thinking there's no way the Mets are winning this game. This is going to be another brutal loss. But overall, Soto is just not comfortable right now. I mean, nice to see him get that sac fly out to center, and it wasn't a cheapie. He obviously hit it to the warning track on a pretty deep part of the yard with that big fence out there in left center field out of Fenway. But overall, you're just like asking for a lot more out of Juan Soto. You get him up there with the bases loaded and 1 out, and still doesn't come through with like that big clutch 2-run double, 3-run double, or even, God forbid I say, grand slam. This is what we were expecting out of him. And to be fair, like, we've had realistic expectations for Juan Soto, right? Like, we expected signing him for the money we signed him for, seeing him, anywhere from 15 times to 5 times a year, whatever it's been over the last 7 years while he's been in the league. He always killed us, and we've always just thought, wow, this guy's just automatic. He's obviously not. Like, he's a human, but we're expecting a lot more out of Juan Soto. So really uncomfortable at bats again in this one. I do, of course, credit him for getting that sacrifice fly, not trying to do too much and ending up with the golden sombrero, 4 strikeouts in this one. But we need to get more out of him. That's a broken record. We all know that already. So happy to get a sac fly from Soto. And then for Francisco Lindor to have a couple good at-bats in this one. He obviously leads off the game with a double off the monster. Of course, the Mets stranded him. But then in the 9th, doing the same thing from the right side of the batter's box, hitting one up and out over the green monster for his 10th home run of the season. That was a really good sign. We know that yesterday, entering that game, or maybe after his first at-bat, he had been 1 for his last 23. It has been a real struggle for Lindor lately. It's been masked because of all the crap going on with Juan Soto, all the hysteria from fans and rivals that are trying to make big stories out of all of this. So what we really weren't paying attention to, I think, is Francisco Lindor, who has really been struggling as well recently. But nice to see him come out of this one with 2 extra base hits. Like I said, his 10th homer of the year, just a nice little cherry on top as the Mets do break this 3-game skid. Great to see. Phillies, of course, we know are playing the Rockies. There is no margin for error. They have one tonight. They have another tomorrow out in Denver. Let's be honest, they're probably going to win all 4. They've already won the first 2. It's going to be tough to not lose ground on the Phillies, but at the very least, you avoid getting swept. That would have been the first time the Mets had been swept this year in 2025, so that is very nice to see that they were able to bounce back from obviously a lot of adversity over the last week here. So what do you guys think? Drop a comment in the section over here. What's your big takeaway from this game? What are you most happy about? What are you still kind of worried about? For me, I'm most happy to see Tyler McGill actually have a solid start. We know his previous 3 were really tough. He really struggled in that Yankees one. That was by far the worst start that any Mets pitcher has made so far this year. And then going back to his 2 previous starts before that, he didn't do so well either. So for McGill to come out, and against a very talented Red Sox lineup, they got some names in there. He did a really great job, even though he only went 4 2/3 innings. He does end up with 10 strikeouts, which was really impressive. Overall, for the night, the Mets struck out 13 Red Sox. So half of the Red Sox outs that the Mets recorded were via the punch-outs. So really great performance from the pitching staff overall. Let's take a little deeper look at what Tyler McGill did here today. Like I said, didn't go very deep into this one. Pitch count was getting high. That 5th inning really gave him struggles where he ends up loading the bases with 1 out. So he goes 4 2/3. He only gave up 4 hits and 1 walk, but it was the pitch count rising, which is really what got him in trouble there. And then, of course, being in that situation, bases loaded, 1 out in the 5th, it was probably a good time for Mendoza to give him the hook. But overall, really happy to see McGill bounce back. We really haven't heard a ton on Sean Manaea or Frankie Montas yet. I'm not sure Montas is guaranteed a start or a spot in this starting rotation when he does return from health. The same, of course, we know for Paul Blackburn. We do know, of course, Sean Manaea automatically is coming back and going to be inserted atop this rotation. So McGill is fighting for his life right now, at least as a starter on the big league roster. Maybe there's an opportunity with all these injuries for him to go into the bullpen. And we've always been interested, hey, could he be good in the bullpen? He's got that, really fastball, really impressive fastball. If he just could develop a good out pitch and command the strike zone, maybe he could be a good reliever. So those are some things to keep in mind with McGill as he continues to pitch right now, as the Mets continue to hopefully get health from Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas. But it wasn't just McGill in this one. Great performance out of the bullpen because Mendoza went to Huascar Braziban, who just continues to be lights out. He has lowered his ERA to below a run. It is sitting at 0.90 tonight after going 2 1/3 scoreless innings for the Mets. He gives up one of those inherited runners on a sac fly, struck out his next batter, and then went out and pitched another inning and a third. Really, really impressive from Braziban. What else is there to say? I mean, where would the Mets be without Braziban? getting these big outs for the Mets. I look at him and Reed Garrett as very similar pitchers. They're the two guys at any time in the game when you need a big out, when you have runners on the bases, traffic on the bases, you're going to Reed Garrett or you're going to Huascar Brazoban, and you're feeling really confident in both of them. But honestly, right now, there's no one in this bullpen I have more confidence in than Huascar Brazoban. Tremendous performance. He ends up striking out the side in the 6th inning. I mean, like, just crazy stuff. You know, this is a guy who, when we were in spring training, I was thinking, there's no way this guy's making the roster. Like, I left him off all of my potential roster, you know, machinations. I was like, this guy didn't pitch well for the team last year. He was injured. He's 35, so it's not like there's a ton of upside in him as, like, you know, being a guy that you can develop necessarily. And yet here he's come out and just been the Mets' most consistent and most effective reliever from wire to wire so far here in 2025. So hats off to Huascar Brazoban. Give him a round of applause. Metropoly Jonathans, what's up, man? Welcome to the chat. New winning streak begins today. That's right, baby. Mendy pushed the right buttons today. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, when the Mets win, that's what we're going to say. When they lose, we're going to say he did all the wrong things. And it's like sometimes you can make a case for that. Big 3 from OG Anunoby. Let's go, baby. But at the end of the day, the Mets players got to go out and perform. And I think no one more, of course, we know than this lineup. The lineup needs to hit. They need to perform better. And Mendoza's decisions will look a whole lot better. When you're going still 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position, it's hard to blame the manager. I mean, I like what he did changing up the lineup today. I don't know how I feel about that one moving forward. How did you guys feel about Marte hitting second? How do you feel about Soto in the 3-hole there? I was like, you know, non-partial to it. I was okay with it for today because we needed to see a change because it had been so bad lately. But I don't know how I feel about that being the lineup moving forward on a consistent basis right now. All right, I'm going to have to pull this out here, change out my microphone because constantly this laptop is dying. But what do you guys think about the lineup that the Mets rolled out today? I was like, it's fine for today. Let's see how it works. And honestly, if we're being totally honest, it really didn't work that much. Like Soto, Lindor stayed in his typical leadoff spot, so he has his double, his home run, but he went unchanged. Starling Marte didn't do anything today, really. Brett Baty was the one that came through with all these hits, hitting 9th in the order. So I'm not like saying this is it. This is the magic fix. They do score 5 runs, but I mean, not in the most impressive fashion. You get 3 RBIs from Brett Baty. You get a sac fly from Soto, a solo homer from Lindor in the 9th when you're already leading 4-1 in his typical leadoff spot. So I don't know if this is the magic elixir necessary, but let me know in the comments section while I work on my microphone over here. How did you feel about the Mets lineup here this evening? I could deal with changing Soto out of the 2 spot. That might be the move, but I mean, like, is it? Because Marte's not going to be in there every day. He was in there today because the Mets had the Red Sox had a lefty on the mound. I'm not so sure that's like the right move for this team, like going forward. Let me see if I can get this mic because I think we're all right. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up or a comment in the chat if you guys can still hear me. It should now be coming through my computer audio, which I know is much worse, but unfortunately I do need to plug my laptop in. So let me know if you can hear me, please. I would really appreciate that. I changed microphones here. So Metropoly, if you're still in here, if you could let me know if you guys can hear me decent, at least still, through this new microphone that I'm using here. But overall, I'm going to continue on as if it is working until I hear something otherwise. So overall, really impressive performance from the Mets bullpen tonight. So, obviously I mentioned Huascar Brazoban. Reed Garrett then came in. He did give up a base hit, but ends up still having a scoreless 8th inning, strikes out 1 batter. His ERA also below 1 at this point, 0.95 for the season. And then they hand the ball off to Edwin Diaz, who, like I said, gives up the leadoff walk. And then from there, 1, 2, 3 after that. So a 1, 2, 3, 4th inning for Edwin Diaz. No harm, no foul. Edwin Diaz has now converted all 11 saves on the season. So that is a great sign. We know that some of them have been a little bit more shaky than others. We know he had that tough appearance early in the year back in the beginning of April against the Marlins at Citi Field. That was a non-save opportunity, but it really seems like ever since then, he's been pretty solid. He had a rough go of it in Sacramento against the Athletics. He did end up holding that save down, but he did give up, I believe it was 2 runs, a couple doubles and base hits and walks in that one, and the Mets barely held on to a 3-run lead. But it seems like since those 2 appearances, Edwin Diaz has looked rock solid. I know tonight wasn't a save appearance, actually, so he's not 11 of 11. Excuse me, he's still 10 of 10. But I don't care, just to see him in a game finally, because it's been so long since the Mets have seemingly needed to use Edwin Diaz. Obviously, used him on Saturday. He locked it down against the Yankees in their lone win in that series, but then they lose Sunday. They don't need him in that one as it gets out of hand in the 8th inning. And then Monday and Tuesday, the Mets offense just completely lifeless out in Boston. And the Mets just never could fit in a way to use Diaz. So nice to see him get up on the horse tonight and look really solid in this one. But let's go into the numbers of the lineup. So we know Lindor, 2 extra base hits, the leadoff double, and then caps it with his 10th home run of the year in the 9th inning. So 2 for 5 for him, RBI. His batting average at 283, OPS is at 831. We know they've been declining a little with this little rough patch that he's been in lately. Starling Marte, wow, okay. You know, everybody was saying in the beginning of the year, like, we don't want Starling Marte, get him off the roster. And I was always of the mindset, like, we're going to need him at some point. He still brings a little bit of speed. I think he could play better defense than people give him credit for. He did play out in left field. I don't believe he really had much action out there tonight with the Green Monster in left. But right now, it's just looking like Marte is a lost cause. I mean, 0 for 3 tonight. We have him on this roster to be a part of this DH platoon and start against lefties. If he's not hitting lefties, then what good is he for? Because we're not playing him in the field much. His speed is like, you know, I would still use him as a pinch runner and send him in motion if we need a stolen base, but that's really not his game so much anymore. So 0 for 3 for Marte, tough one. His batting average on the year down to 203, OPS to 628. So it has been a real slog for Starling Marte. Nimmo pinch hit for him at one point to come in for defensive purposes. He did not get a hit. He went 0 for 1. Soto, we talked about in the beginning. I mean, another hitless night, 0 for 3. First 3 at-bats, all punch-outs. The first 2 looking, I mean, he didn't even look interested in being up there in the batter's box. I just don't know why he's not seeing the ball well. I don't know what's going on in his head. Nobody knows except Juan Soto, of course. It's just so puzzling because he just looks so night and day different from what we saw out of Juan Soto for his entire 7-year career, from what we just saw last year in our own backyard while he was playing with the Yankees, what we saw when he was a member of the Nationals, and even when he was on the Padres and we play him a couple times a year, or in that National League Wild Card Series back in 2022. These are at-bats from Soto like I have never seen before when he was an opponent against the Mets. So super weird. Then in the third at-bat, after taking the first 2 strikeouts looking, he gets down in a 2-strike count and chases way out into the right-hander's batter's box. And, I mean, flails at a pitch that he was not even close to. And that was when it was a 1-1 game. I was very, very concerned this was going to be a repeat of what we have been seeing all week from this team. Danny, what's up? Welcome to the chat. Brett proving his worth despite a subpar name. Yeah, Brett Baty. I mean, you know, typical white boy name, whatever. It's cool, I guess. But, yeah, I'm glad to see Baty get a couple hits here. They needed that. I mean, the unlikeliest of heroes seem to always come out of the woodworks when you're in a big slump like this. You know, when your team is totally slumping, when you're on a 3-game losing streak, when you've lost first place in the division, you've fallen a game and a half behind of the Phillies here in the last couple of days. So really great to see Brett Baty come out and have a good night for the Mets and basically be the hero in this one. Pete Alonso, 1 for 5, had a base hit, and, you know, it's been tough. He's dropped his batting average. We knew he wasn't going to hit 350 the entire season, but it's now down to 292, which, hey, if he has a 292 average and a 930 OPS like he does right now, by the end of this season, I will be doing cartwheels and backflips. I don't think any of us would have ever expected that from Pete Alonso after the year he had last year. We know the highest batting average he's ever had in his career was his rookie year. It was somewhere up around 270. He's never been close to that. The next best was like in the 250s. So I'm not going to get on Pete. I just hope he can get back into a hot streak like he did to start this season. That all starts with hitting pitches in the zone, identifying them, and finding a way to lay off those bad pitches. That is one of those bad habits he's unfortunately started to get back into lately. But still, we're going to give him a pass for sure. 0 for 3 for Vientos. It's been a rough go of it. He did draw a walk and scored a run. It was the first run of the game in this one on Baty single. He also scored later in the 7th inning as well. No, I'm sorry. He had just that one run. Torrens. I've been saying it. I've been screaming it from the rooftops for anybody that would listen. You got to get Luis Torrens in this lineup more. You've got to get Torrens in this lineup. I don't know if you want to make him the DH and make Francisco Alvarez the catcher or vice versa or do it split up. But Luis Torrens is a threat with the bat. He puts up perhaps the most professional at-bats out of any of the other guys on this roster at the moment, without including Jeff McNeil, who obviously didn't play today, but who has been great, the only position player worth a damn over the last week. So I would love to see Torrens get put into the lineup more often, putting Alvarez at DH or the other way around. However you can optimize playing time for both of them, keeping them both fresh. I think Torrens is a bat on this bench that we are wasting. So hopefully Mendoza will do that. 2 hits for him. He started the rally in both of the innings that the Mets scored, or at least the 2 big innings. I guess you couldn't call the second inning a big inning, but he ends up getting on base in that one with a single and then gets on base with a single to begin the 7th inning and comes around to score on that one. We, of course, know he got thrown out at the plate in the 2nd on Baty's base hit. Tyrone Taylor has been putting up some decent at-bats, 1 for 4 in this one, ends up scoring a run as well, and then Luis Angel Acuna, 2 for 4, a little deceptive 2 for 4, as both of them were infield singles, but you'll take them however you can get them. And then, of course, Baty, 2 for 4 with the 3 RBIs. He's the hero in this one. So overall, Mets bats looked a lot better today. I don't love some of the at-bats we had. I thought we were taking a ton of pitches right down the middle. You know, you see it in the first inning, Soto and Alonso staring at strike 3 right down the middle, and that happened a couple more times throughout this one. I thought they were a little over-aggressive at times. I thought they were a little passive at other times. So I don't think this was a healing all kind of night for this lineup, but nice to see them still get 5 runs on 10 hits and get this win. Take some pressure off of this pitching staff, which has, despite the lineup not giving them any run support, continued to pitch excellent. Still the top earned run average in all of Major League Baseball. Now 50 games into the season. So really happy to see them at least get a couple runs and get the wheels turning in the right direction here. Again, though, we do have to note it. 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. It's got to be better. It has got to be better. 0 for 5 in those first 2 innings with runners in scoring position, because Lindor leads the game off with a double, Marte pop up, Soto K, Alonso K. That's 0 for 3 right there. Then in the 2nd inning, the Mets get 2nd and 3rd, nobody out, and immediately Tyrone Taylor pops out. Luis Angel Acuna grounds out, and the Mets begin the night 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. We're all thinking, oh brother, here we go again. Luckily, Baty broke the ice with that base hit. Unfortunately, they don't get the score, or the second run to score as Torrens is thrown out at the plate. But 3 for 12, it's not going to cut it most nights. Right now, it's a marginal improvement over what we've been seeing. For the season, the team is hitting somewhere around 212 with runners in scoring position. So 3 for 12, 250 will improve and bump that number up just a little bit. So baby steps. We just got to keep pushing it in the right direction. Hopefully it'll turn. We don't need to panic. The world is not completely over. The Mets are still a good quality ball club that I think will win a lot of games. So the Mets are off on Thursday, and then we welcome in the Los Angeles Dodgers to Citi Field. 3-game set this weekend with the Dodgers at Citi Field. That is why winning tonight, stopping this 3-game skid, avoiding a sweep in Boston was so important that the Mets won tonight, because you did not want to have a day off tomorrow, let it linger in the players' heads, in the fans' heads, let that negative energy continue to build, and then say, oh, by the way, you got 3 games with the Dodgers this upcoming weekend, because that is not a good sign at all. So fortunately, Mets are able to put the brakes on this 3-game losing streak. They will start with the Dodgers on Friday. It will be Clayton Kershaw going for the Dodgers. And then after that, though, this is a Dodgers starting pitching staff that has been a bit of an injury bug. I mean, they have really had some issues. So Tony Gonsolin, who is ironically coming off many injuries over the past several years, will be making the start on Saturday. And then on Sunday, it's going to be, I believe his name is Knack for the Dodgers. Let me see if I could get his first name. I think it's Lance Knack or something like that for the Dodgers. Yeah. So opportunity here for the Mets. Like, don't get me wrong. The Dodgers are obviously still the World Series defending champions. As far as my money would go, they'll probably be the most likely to repeat. They have a stacked roster, but there is no Blake Snell in that rotation right now. There is no Tyler Glasnow in that rotation right now. We obviously know Ohtani is not pitching at this point, so you don't even count that. But with Clayton Kershaw, he just came off the injured list. He struggled in his first start of the season. You have Tony Gonsolin, a guy that hasn't pitched a whole lot over the last several years because of his own injury situations, and then a rookie in Knack who has not had great numbers so far this year. So the Mets offense, this is an opportunity for them as far as I'm concerned. You're welcoming in the Dodgers. Obviously, we know what happened to us in the National League Championship Series against them last year. I don't want to play the Dodgers. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I mean, I'd prefer if we were having a 4-game set with the Rockies right now, the way the Phillies are. But I do think that these are winnable games, considering the pitching for the Dodgers coming up. Again, it's going to be Kershaw, Gonsolin, and a rookie by the name of Knack, who does not have great numbers. I want 2 out of 3. Let's get back on the right side of things, win a series here, and then after that, the Mets are going to have a little bit of a softer portion of their schedule. So let me actually just pull that up, because after they finish up that series with the Dodgers, the Mets have 3 with the White Sox, and then they have 3 with the Rockies at home. So we're talking about 6 games after this Dodger series that, let's be honest, the Mets should win all 6 of those games. There is no reason why the Mets should not win all 6 games against the White Sox and against the Rockies at home after this Dodgers series. I don't want to look too far ahead. I'm just saying this is a golden opportunity. The Dodgers are not at their best right now. They just got swept by the Angels this past weekend at home. Then they lost last night. They also lost Monday. So they have been struggling as well. Don't have great pitching rotation right now lined up against us. Kershaw's immortal. He'll probably have like 6 innings of 1-hit ball against the Mets because that's what he always does against us. But that all being said, if the Mets can come away with 2 out of 3 in that Dodgers series, I really think the tides can turn very fast for this team with the White Sox and then the Rockies coming up at Citi Field. And then just a short 2 weeks later, not even the next week, the Mets go out on the road to play the Rockies for 3 games in Denver, which, by the way, I will be at for those games. So stay tuned. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff out there as well. D-Rail's Baty trade value going up. Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, like, Baty's probably got more value to the Mets than to anybody in a trade. I don't think any team is going to look at, like, his recent streaks that he's been on since getting recalled and be like, oh yeah, we're ready to trade for Brett Baty. We believe that he's going to tap into that first round pick potential. Like, I don't see him ever being like the headliner of a trade at this point. Like, he'll be one of those guys that's like a lottery ticket, but then we'd also need to throw in like a top prospect if we were trying to get an established big league pitcher or position player. But hey, look, it's a good problem to have that Baty's playing well, that we were thinking Vientos was going to continue to have a really good, start to his career after what he did last year as a rookie. But it's looking more and more like, especially with what we're seeing in the field, that Brett Baty might be making the case that he should be the everyday third baseman, because he has certainly been way more sure-handed out in the field than Mark Vientos has been, and lately he's been hitting better than him too. I mean, this is a very similar situation to what the Mets have at catcher right now with Luis Torrens and with Francisco Alvarez. Like, these are good problems to have 2 players that play the same position playing well. I mean, they've been up and down. Francisco Alvarez up and down, Vientos up and down, but good to have Baty and to have Luis Torrens able to step in at any given time and assume more playing time or be ready to come off the bench on any given day. For example, Baty today. Like I said, who would have guessed that Baty would be getting the start against one of the toughest lefties in the league in Garrett Crochet? Hadn't had a hit against the southpaw this entire season. His first one is an RBI single. Could have very nearly been a 2-run single there in the second inning. So love to see it out of Baty. I don't know if they're going to actually explore any trades with him. Like I said, I just don't think other teams are going to look at him and still have much faith or value in him. I mean, we've pretty much beat the value out of him because he hasn't performed yet. You know, this is a former first-round pick. I think if anything, he'd be like a lottery pick kind of throw-in to any potential trade that we're looking to do for a big league position player or a big league pitcher. But that's just my opinion on it. What is your guys' big takeaway from this game tonight? Again, I am happy that the offense was able to score 5 runs, but I don't think everything is all fine and dandy and fixed. I definitely think that the lineup change was necessary. I also don't think this is the lineup that I would continue rolling with on a consistent basis. One, we won't, because Starling Marte is only going to be in there against lefties anyway. So, I don't know. Maybe it's Luis Angel Acuna put into that 2 spot. You know, unfortunately, he hasn't been hitting a whole lot lately. Maybe they try Tyrone Taylor in that 2 spot. I actually do like that idea. Taylor with a lot of speed, puts up good at-bats, would give opportunities for Soto to see some fastballs if he gets on base. So I don't hate the idea of Tyrone Taylor maybe going into that 2 spot and then filling out the rest of the lineup with the Acuñas and the Batys and guys like that down toward the bottom of the order. Taylor's puts up, for the most part, really professional at-bats, has good speed, can steal bases. He's a threat. That might get Soto some more fastballs if they're going to keep him in the 3 spot. Don't want to cater to Soto, okay? Don't get me wrong when I say this. I don't want to just cater to Soto because he's the guy with all the big money, but I do want to put him in the best position to succeed. So if I'm Carlos Mendoza and he has made it clear that he feels most comfortable in the 2 spot, I'm going to keep him there. Even though it has not been going well so far over the first month and a half here now of his career with the Mets, I want to do everything I can to put Juan Soto in the most comfortable position for him to succeed. I know people are going to say that I'm crazy, I'm just catering to Soto and, you know, all this and that, but at the end of the day, this is a long-term investment, 15 years. And right now he is in the middle of his prime, and we need to do everything we can to get him going. So if he likes hitting in this 2-hole, I would keep him in the 2-hole, and I would try to rearrange different parts of the lineup. As far as I'm concerned, the Mets' 3 best hitters, I think this is not even an argument, are Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, and Juan Soto. And you want to get your best players the most at-bats you can in a game. I think they should be hitting 1, 2, and 3 in the order for this team. So I don't know if I like the idea of messing around with Taylor or with, in tonight's case, Starling Marte in the 2-hole. I might say better off putting Soto in the 2-hole instead, but I am open to the idea of changes if it's going to mean some better looking at-bats than from what we've seen over this last week. Elvin Solano, Brett the Hitman, Baty coming through in the clutch. Yes, sir. Who would have thought? I said it earlier, man, you know, sometimes when you're in these kind of slumps, when you're on a 3-game losing streak, it's the unlikeliest of heroes. It's the guys you would have never guessed are going to come through for you, that are going to get the team going. And I don't know if that'll be the case. We'll see if the Mets can carry this over into the weekend. Like I said, they're playing the Dodgers. We obviously know the Dodgers are going to be a tough beat, but it's not like they're throwing Lefty Grove and Sandy Koufax and Fernando Valenzuela this weekend. They have Clayton Kershaw, who is a fossil. I still believe he'll probably throw, though, 6 innings of 1-hit ball against the Mets. I mean, he has ridiculous numbers against them over his career. But he is just making his 2nd start coming off of injury himself. Then you have Tony Gonsolin, who has been injured for several years now. I mean, like, don't believe he's thrown a pitch in the majors since 2023, so he's just getting back and into shape as far as pitching on a big league mound. And then they have their rookie Knack, who does not have great numbers. He is not one of their top prospects that they're bringing up. So I think the Mets have a good chance to win this series if the lineup can finally get back to normal. I think this was a very positive development from them today. 10 hits. You get 2 extra base hits from Lindor, a home run and a double. Pete Alonso had a base hit. You got a couple from the bottom of the order, and Taylor and Acuna, and obviously Brett Baty. Luis Torrens added 2 as well. So those were all really positive signs. Now the big boys got to get going. Nice to see Pete get 1 hit, yeah, but we need more than that, right? We need, haven't seen Pete hit a home run since that Arizona Diamondback series out in Arizona. I mean, that's 2 weeks ago now. It's been 2 weeks since Pete Alonso's last home run. That's what we need to get back to. That's what we need to see. Juan Soto, we know it's just been a struggle. It's just been ugly. It's been bad. Don't believe all the media crap of he's unhappy and he wanted to be the Yankee. That's Michael Kay being a little fanboy, a total narp. Don't believe any of it. I know that Soto is happy here. The Mets are going to be with him for a long time. This is a 15-year marriage, but we've got to get it going. And if the offense does do what it should do on paper, I think they have just as good a chance to win 2 out of 3 this series against the Dodgers over the weekend. And after that, you win those 2, you got a little bit of the juices flowing, and you're welcoming in some really crappy baseball teams, potentially 2 of the worst teams in baseball history over the last 2 years. The White Sox setting the record last year, and then immediately after that, the Rockies, who don't even have double-digit wins yet in 2025. The Rockies are 8-40 right now. So there's no reason in the world that after this Dodgers series coming up that the Mets should not win all 6 of those games against the White Sox and against the Rockies. And I know that is asking for a lot, especially with how the Mets have played recently. But if you want to be a team with World Series aspirations, you need to get yourself out of the slump you've been in. It's been a little bit of a tougher schedule. That is noted. And you need to go and take care of business against the bad teams, against the scrubs of the league. So that's how I feel about it. But overall, good win tonight. 5-1. Mets end the 3-game losing streak. Let me know in the comment section below how you guys feeling about this, how you feeling about this Knicks game right now, as they are up double digits in the final 2 minutes right now. So that's a great sign. Go New York, go New York, go. Drop a like if you're a Knicks fan. Drop a like if you're hyped about the Mets getting their W today. Again, 5-1 the final from Boston. That is going to do it for tonight, guys. I appreciate you all tuning in, hanging out in the comments section. It's always a good time. I'm going to have a post-game stream on Friday after Mets and Dodgers from Citi Field, and I am hopefully going to have another fun video like the one I just posted this week, how the 1992 Mets became the worst team money can buy. You can check that out immediately after I finish this stream. That's on my channel page, but I'm going to have another video hopefully coming out by this Sunday on a really fun topic, one of the Mets' former managers. I think you guys will really enjoy it, so keep your eyes peeled for that. You could turn channel notifications on so you know when I'm going live and when I do post that video. But that is it for tonight, guys. Again, 5-1 win for the Mets and the 3-game skid. I appreciate it. Until next time, I am Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.